Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Belinda Peterson. I'm the principal of Otter Road Methodist Primary School in the heart of Wynberg. And I'm very fortunate this afternoon because I've got 3 of my teachers sitting over there. I don't know quite if they're here because they want to check up on me or if they're actually interested in what I'm going to share. But I'm very happy to have them here.
Give them an A. Decide they're here because they want to hear what you've got to say.
Right, so sharing about our school community, initially I had quite a lot of thoughts going on in my head. And so if you looked at the initial page that I wrote, there was just a lot of scribbling going on to kind of sift through what all of this means. When I arrived at Ottery Road, well, it's affectionately known as OMS, almost 3 years ago, the school really didn't have a sense of being in the community. So we're a public school on a private property, and so for those of you who are schools in that context, then you know immediately what that entails, the challenges that it involves. So one of the things that really stood out for me was the fact that our school really wasn't a community school in the sense of children were coming from the community who belonged to OMS. So many of the children were traveling in because if you know anything about Wynberg, we are right down the road from Wynberg Terminus, so we just have kids coming from everywhere. So about 20 to 30% of our learners were actually from the Wynberg area, and the rest were from other areas. So there was no real support from the community. The community itself, because I obviously went around and chatted with people, also chatted with members of the church, and there was no real sense of support for the school because they didn't feel like the school was actually part of the community. There was a complete disconnect. And so one thing that became very clear to me from the outset was, firstly, we needed to rebuild our relationship with the church, because really it's all about relationships. It's all about the connections that we're making with the people around us as a school, because we can't do it on our own. If we think we can, we probably will fail. So that was the first thing for me that I needed to think about, and I needed to get, especially my SMT head around, in terms of how do we rebuild that connection again? How do we get people to work with us and have a sense of being part of this community? And so part of that, I think, was consciously building those relationships, consciously going out and saying, who can we build relationships with? But then also looking at this whole idea of possibility. I'm so fortunate and blessed to be part of Partners for Possibility, because it's really opened up my mind to actually see possibility in everything. It doesn't matter how terrible the situation may seem, but actually there is possibility in everything. And so I'm really going to share our story with you through lots of pictures, because I'm a foundation first teacher, so we think through pictures, and pictures help us to make sense of things. So I've got some pictures that I'm just going to share with you that will help to tell the story of how we're on this journey of becoming a school that is at the center of the community. So Partners for Possibility was definitely one aspect that really assisted me as a principal, but also us as a school, in terms of moving forward and becoming part of the community. Obviously, I have an amazing business partner who's been an incredible sounding board for me for the past 2 years. But apart from that, it's also just being given the tools, having those tools through the training, through connecting with other principals that I never would have connected with before, and hearing their stories. Because I think once we start doing that, we start opening up and we start building relationships with others, doors start opening. And often we don't even have to knock on those doors, they just kind of fling open. And so coming back to the relationship with the church, we started having regular meetings with them, just hearing from them, what are your concerns, what are your needs, what are our needs. Let's come together and let's just start talking, because that wasn't happening. We since then, we're still having regular meetings, we're still having regular chats on the phone, but since then we've seen a more active involvement of the church. We're not a church school, we're on the property, but there's more of a relationship and engagement of the church in our school, where we had them last year. They did major roof repairs to our school, which has been the cause of much concern and damage over the past 10 years or so. Once they just decided, well, let's just arrive and give the staff a lunch. And they set up a beautiful table for us, and they just invited all the staff after the kids were dismissed and just said, come and relax. We just want to treat you to some lunch. That had never happened before in the history of our school. We've also been involved in the holiday club that they've been running during the school holidays in June. But then also one of the congregation members just decided last year she's going to knit beanies for all our grade 1 and 2 learners for winter. We didn't ask for those things to happen, but because we were consciously building that relationship, they were coming to us and saying, what can we start doing for you? And we're seeing more and more of that happening as we go along. And so there you can see the picture of, okay, it's not very clear, but our grade 2 class of last year all dressed up in their beanies, exceptionally happy. They still wear it to this day. And then we had the holiday club team coming into our school to do some activities with our kids. Added to that, we realized that also we needed to become a community school. We actually needed to have more and more kids coming from the community. And so we've made a conscious effort to build relationships with people in the community again. Engaging our parents who live in the community, who can become part of the school because they live down the road or 2 blocks away. They can walk to school and come and be part of our community. And some of the pictures here just show some of the community involvement activities that we've been having, specifically in the area of connecting with other schools and in terms of academics. Many of your schools probably are also involved in the WordWorks program. And we've just been so fortunate that we've had members from the church, but also members from the community who just walk down the road and they come and volunteer every week. We've got the Shine Literacy that we've got through Partners for Possibility. We've also built a connection with Help the Rural Child. And they come and do regular book sales with our children because literacy is a concern for us. And many of our children don't have access to books at home or aren't able to get to the local library because of the areas in which they live. And so we have Help the Rural Child who comes in, I think once a term, if I'm not mistaken, and they come and sell second-hand books, but they look brand new to me. I'm sure they just joking, but they look brand new. And they come in and they sell books for 10, 20 rand each. And it's amazing to see how the children look forward to that. And because this is World Book Week, we're selling books again this week. And it's just incredible to see, when you open up that possibility for the kids, they actually are hungry for that. We just need to provide the space for that. And so that's really been one partnership that has really benefited us. We've also built a partnership with 2 specific schools. One is Cedar House. You can see the kids playing Twister in the corner there. We have a joint extramural program running on Monday afternoons with Cedar House, which is actually a private school in Kenilworth. And they come and do fun activities with our kids. They do science experiments. They sometimes take our kids to their school and they do obstacle courses and all sorts of other things, which we do on a quarterly basis now. And then we've also built another relationship with Wynberg Girls Junior School, who also regularly assist us, giving us donations. We just recently had one of our classroom floors done, and suddenly we were in need of desks. And I think within the space of 1 term, we've received a donation of desks from Wynberg Girls Junior School. Desks that they were no longer in need of. And they just put it on their trailer and came to drop it off at the school. So we're really, really fortunate to have those kinds of relationships, specifically with those 2 schools. Another important relationship for us was also building relationships with the preschools in the area. We are not fortunate to have grade R, and so we rely on the preschools around in the Wynberg area to really do the ECD well. And so one thing that we did was actually going to visit those preschool centres and getting to know who the teachers are, sitting with the kids in the classes, telling them also, this is what we're looking for. This is how kids will be ready for grade 1. Can we help us? Can you help us? Can we work together? And so that was also very important for us in terms of just strengthening our school and strengthening the literacy and numeracy development of the children at our school. So really, there's been a lot of. If I think back to, I've only been at the school for just over 2.5 years, but the number of partnerships that we've been able to establish and sustain over this period of time has just been phenomenal. Then in other areas, we've developed a relationship with a little place called Rosie's, which is in Wynberg, and they, I think on a quarterly basis, they come and drop off party packs for all our kids. So it's got fruit and little snacks in there for them, packet of biscuits, and they just bring for the children, but also for the staff as well, as their way of giving to us. We've also got a number of, we've got some ladies from the local mosque who come and drop off 20 meals on Tuesdays, most Tuesdays, and that's for children who we know are really in need. So we've got, there's so many stories of those kinds of relationships that we've built where people have just come alongside and said, what can we do for you? And I've realized more and more that it's because we are starting to change our mindset, not kind of going, woe is me, and all these challenges, and we can't do this, there's no way out of this, or we can never compare ourselves to another school. But when we start thinking differently, when we start saying, actually, there is possibility, we can build relationships, we don't have to wait for anybody else. We need to step out and trust that there are people out there who are going to be willing to help. And you'll be amazed at who steps forward. People you never expect to step forward, step forward. One of the next things that we wanting to do, in a specific partnership that we're wanting to build, is actually an alumni group. Now, for the 5,000 schools that Louise mentioned earlier, most of them have alumni as just one of those things, your old boys, old girls clubs. For schools like ours, that doesn't really exist. They graduate, they leave, they're adults, and you don't hear from them again. Or you might just see them in a mall somewhere. But we want to start an alumni, and the reason for this is we've got 2 active past pupils, okay, now I'm talking past pupils like from many years ago, who are actively supporting the school, and they both live abroad. One is in the US and the other one is in Australia. And one is making a huge donation in terms of our ICT development at school, and the other one actually purchases uniforms for children in need, or stationery, or anything else that the learners need, so specifically for the learners. And we realized that actually that's a resource we haven't tapped into yet. And over the past couple of months, I've actually met a lot of ex-pupils from the school who are kind of going, oh, are you the principal? I didn't know that, but can we get involved? We want to get involved. So this is now the next step that my business partner and I are looking at, is starting that alumni, because we're realizing that actually our past pupils are well resourced and they know the school. They have an affection, they have a love for the school, because that's kind of the home that they had when they were growing up. And so it's more likely that they will be able to partner with us. So that's our next step in terms of what we're wanting to do. But I really just, again, am amazed at how when you change your mindset, when you change your thinking to one of possibility, anything can happen. Thank you very much.
Wow. In this room, firstly, it's a really nice group of people. It's not like there's a group of CEOs and you have to be worried that they're going to bite off your head. Nobody's going to bite off anything from anybody if you talk, so please don't worry about that. And so the act of leadership is sometimes just to kind of be willing to take a deep breath and say something into this room and know that you're going to be loved for that courage. So who wants to be the first person who wants to be loved?
I'm Ita Locke. I'm coming from Untitled School. It's a special school. I am bonding with the child care center, Rockabye Baby. And then suddenly a social worker talked to a school in Sarepta. And so last week, that school from Sarepta was come and said, we want to come and visit your school. We have some toys for your school. And it was amazing for me just to start. Don't think about a big story. Just try to talk to someone. And someone is talking to another one. And now we have this story that a term we're going to come together. Luckily we have buses, so we can go to that school. That school don't have buses, but we're going to reach out to that school.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So that's exactly, it's not big stuff. It's so small. It's that one conversation with one person that leads to something. And if you have a story, that kind of one of those possibility stories or beautiful, unsurprising stories, we want to hear those stories. Who else has something that they want to say in response to the small group or in Belinda or a story?
Story is very inspiring. I think it reminds all of us that we should never forget to just, be the change and make the difference and stop sitting back and expecting someone else to go and do the work for you. And it's also just about, identifying a need and fulfilling that need, even if it's something very small, like encouraging a child or building their self-esteem, but also to fulfill that need of that child. Thank you so much.
Partners with one teacher. But then what I mean with partnering, make a commitment to love and support one teacher. My parents, and I'm not very proud of this, but my parents were missionaries. So we would go to church and there would be a big event and then the church would bless my parents and send them into Malawi to go and do missionary work. I want churches on Sundays to bless our teachers and send them into Khayelitsha, because I tell you it's much more difficult to work in Khayelitsha than in Malawi, as a teacher or as missionary. And then I want the small groups to love a teacher. And when it's cold, take hot chocolate to the school. And if it's warm, take a cool drink. And when it's their birthday, because the thing is, my children went to Kenridge Primary, and at Kenridge Primary, when it's the teacher's birthday, they get 50 of the best presents ever. I go to the school, some of these under-resourced schools, and it's the teacher's birthday, there's nothing. There's nothing. How's that right? So if we can mobilize these churches to get involved, love a teacher, not adopt a teacher. You adopt puppies and babies, you don't adopt teachers, but love a teacher. Am I smoking something when I have that dream? And I think the only people who's going to help the churches see their role, I don't think the idea of the church is to sit in a room on a Sunday. I think the idea of the church is to be God in the world. And so who needs care and love more than teachers? Anybody? No, I mean, maybe nurses, but nurses and teachers, they need love, and I think the church have a role to play. So that's my fantasy. Next time when you see me, you can remember I've got a fantasy. She's from that school.
I'm Rene Aronson. I'm from Belinda School.
She's a tweeter.
Yes, and I'm like crazy tweeting. We actually compete.
Oh, good.
What Belinda actually might have not mentioned also is, with the outside changes that we see happening, the internal changes, the amount of parents that are pitching up at the door to say, can I stay, can I help? Not, what did you do to my child today? Not that. We're getting more parents coming in and saying, do you need this? What do you need? Can I do that? That is phenomenal. It is making things, every day it's making things a little bit easier. So even though we've looked outside for assistance, the parents are now starting to see, look, they're serious about this. They're serious about my child. So maybe I can also start being serious. I don't have to stay away. I can actually pitch up, even if it's to keep a group quiet for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. They are actually starting to come into the school and actually stay.
I'm absolutely 100% sure that Paulette is sitting here thinking, I want to talk to Belinda because Ottery Road Primary, clearly things are happening, and Water for Cape Town, if you're not already involved, are they already involved? No, okay, no. So she's sitting here thinking, I want to go talk to Belinda because there's something happening at that school, and I want to be part of what happens in that school. And so the dream is that can be the case for all schools. So Redwan, my partner at Kanamai Primary, he's not here this afternoon, he's not well. So we were there this morning and he's not well. But that school has become a magnet. Because every time Redwan's is on the radio or on the TV or on Twitter, you should all be on Twitter, it really helps. So somebody kind of says, I want to be part of this. So I want to tell you the story about Theo, I can never remember Theo's surname because he's Theo Ubuntu on Twitter. Renee, do you know what his surname is? Anyway, Theo. What's his surname? Don't know. Theo, yeah. 8 years ago, this is a story. This is a story of inspiration, and I'm going to hand over to Andre. 8 years ago, Redwan and I wanted to do a teacher appreciation lunch in December. And I don't have money, and Redwan doesn't have money, and the school doesn't have money, and we wanted to do something nice for the teachers. So I tweeted, Kanamai Primary wants to do a teacher appreciation lunch. Who's willing to contribute something to the school? And the one person says, I've got 100 rand, and the other one said, I've got some beautiful pens, and the other one, people went. And Theo lived in Rome at the time. So Theo sent me a note. He said, I've got 300 rand and I'd like to make a contribution to this thing that you're doing, and I'd like to be connected to the principal. Long story short, Theo, who sat in Rome, had access to some students who wanted to do a project, and they wanted to do a website for someone. So the students from Rome did Ridwan's website 8 years ago. Then Ridwan and Theo started to talk on the email, and long story short, Theo started this thing called Wise Hub, and some of you will have been to the Wise Hub events. But that all happened because Redwan and I posted a thing that says, who can help with a teacher appreciation lunch in December, which became a website, which became then a media center, which then became last year one of Redwan's teachers were flown by Theo to the States for some amazing conference because Theo has fallen in love with the school. So that's how it works. It doesn't happen when you start and say, I'm going to go and find... It starts by reaching out, by inviting, by saying, here's a school, we're passionate, we care, and we want to do something, and please can you come and help us because we can't do it all by ourselves. So on that note, over to Andre.